today's training is all about creating content that sells, essentially. Because too many of us, we create content and nothing happens. We're sharing articles, we're sharing videos, we're making stuff that we think is pretty cool, but in reality, it doesn't. No one cares, no one responds, and then we all just don't feel very good and think social media doesn't work, making content doesn't work, it's all crap, we should just stop. But when you do it right, you can create specific pieces of content that are designed to do specific things. So the first thing we're going to start off with is understanding that content is about value and about having purpose behind it. The second thing is we're going to cover the AIDA formula that I've used for a long time to create content that is very, very effective at producing results in my business. And then the third thing is I'm actually going to give you some tactics that you can go and implement right now and go and generate clients off the back of this training, okay? Because I want to see you guys win. The first thing you need to understand is that most of us, there is no purpose behind our content. We're making content for the sake of making content because we think that we just need to have content out there because people will see us and eventually they'll choose to work with us. But the problem is that there is far too much content all over the internet and it's overwhelming for everybody. People don't need more content. They need value and purpose. Purpose is why we're doing it. Okay, you have to know why. Are you creating this content to get somebody to click to an offer or to your website, to your contact page? Are you getting them to comment? Are you wanting to get clients out of it? Are you just wanting to give value? Like, what's your purpose? Like, for example, for me, as a meta example, the purpose of this content is to give value, build trust and authority, and then see for people who are ready right now, do they want to take action? So my content is designed to nurture you as the viewer into a position where it makes sense for you to want to work with me. Like, how many of you, those of you clients who are watching, have seen my content for a long time and that was part of the reason why you joined? Even if you don't know it, it probably is, because I was remaining top of mind, but I was doing it in a valuable way. And because I had purpose behind the content that I was creating, I knew the outcome that I wanted, and so I could measure the success. So I knew whether or not the content was working from my perspective, and also from your guys' perspective, because I can see who engages with it, who doesn't, how long they watch for, whether they sign up. Most of us just make content. We just share stuff. But because everybody's sharing stuff, it just gets kind of clouded in with things. So the first thing you need to understand is, do I have a purpose behind my content? This blog article that I'm writing, what do I hope to achieve with it? What do I want the client to know and understand and do because of the piece of content? What am I hoping to get out of that piece of content? Do I want a client? Do I want somebody to have been pulled further down the path closer to working with me? Like, what's the purpose? Because your content, for example, fits into kind of 3 stages. And you might have heard this before. I've definitely mentioned it before. You've got leads that are cold. These are prospective clients who may not be problem aware. Like, they may not even know they have a problem yet. Or they do, but they're not looking for information about it. Or maybe they're not looking for who can help me, right? They're just maybe problem aware, maybe not. That type of content, the purpose of any content targeting that audience is to get them to engage with you so that it can spark a conversation, or they can go, that was interesting. Let me find out more. So in that content, you're not going to say, hey, buy my thing, right? Hey, come in for an appointment. The purpose of that content, if you're targeting that audience, needs to just be to engage them. It's kind of like if there's a stray dog. You don't go up and try and take it home because it'll bite you. You go in its vicinity if it'll let you, and you'll flick some food to it. You don't do anything more than that. It's just like hey, let's just have some eye contact and realize there's some trust here. The second level is warm. These people are problem aware and they're beginning to be solution aware. So they're beginning to look for, I have headaches, I have back pain. What could possibly help me? Or what should I possibly be doing? Or what is possibly going on with me right now? I've got headaches, so let me look up headaches, right? The content there is the same thing. You're just flicking some food in front of the dog's face, but you're a bit closer and you're kind of placing it there with your hand. You know what I mean? Or even just offering it in your hand and saying, here you go, buddy. Like, there's some trust here. I want to see how far I can stretch the trust. Your purpose with the content there is to, again, pull them further down, but now start getting them to engage at a deeper level. So maybe we have a conversation. Maybe you give me your email address. Maybe you subscribe to something of mine, right? Download something. So there's more, there's a deeper level of engagement. And the purpose of the content is to further educate, but to begin the process of getting them to take action. The third level is hot. Hot people are problem aware and they're solution aware, and they're looking for what is the best solution what is the best solution, or what is the best provider of the solution that I've already chosen. So most of us go and try and market after those people. It's like doing Google ads as a chiropractor for back pain, right? That's one way of doing it, which I don't recommend. Content-wise, what you're now offering is like, can you eat off my hand? And maybe I can pat you and touch you, and maybe I can lead you over this direction to have some more food. So it's very much more of a intimate interaction, right? With the stray dog. I'm now touching it. He's smelling my hand. He's seeing that this is okay. There's trust here. Let's start moving in this direction. And it's much more like, come with me. So this is very much let's have a sales conversation. Let's have a consultation. Let's get on the phone. Let's talk in Facebook Messenger, where there's now a clear, I know you have a problem. You know you have a problem. I know that you are aware of some stuff around that problem. Let's have a conversation to see, with my expertise, what's going to be the best thing for you to do to get the outcome that you want. Because remember, all of us are facilitators. We don't make the change. We facilitate the change. And the sooner you realize that you are as I learned from, I forgot his name. He was on my podcast. He is like the general manager of the Harmon Brothers, and they're the creators of like Squatty Potty, Fiberfix, Poopery, those ad campaigns, if you've ever seen those. And he talks about being a part of the hero's journey. Like, you're just a character in their story. Too many of us in business, we and especially in healthcare, even more than anything, is we consider ourselves to be like, they're there. Well, let me get on camera. They're there, we're here, and they want to get to here, so they have to go through us to get there. Whereas in actual fact, it's more like this. They're here, and we're just this bridge in the middle, and then they just walk across it to get to the thing. And we're part of it, yes, and maybe they wouldn't have achieved it without us, but we're not, we aren't the creator of their reality. Like, we are, but not in their story. In their story, they're on a journey, and we've just come in and swooped in and said, here's a nice bridge to go across, and let's get to the next phase. So in terms of your content, it's the same thing. It's beginning that conversation, just being a character in their story and facilitating them. And your content's designed should be designed to facilitate them, and the purpose of it is designed to facilitate them. So if you understand each of the phases, right? There's cold, warm, and hot. You understand that you're facilitating people through that journey. And your content is there to facilitate people through that journey. That stray dog, you know that it's suffering, and you wanted to give it a good home and give it some food and make it healthy. You can't go up to it and say, hey dog, grab it by its collar and go, come with me, I'm going to change your life, right? Which is what most of us do when we market, or especially when we create content. Instead, what needs to happen is you start with just flicking some bread and being near it. And maybe that takes 6 months. You know what I mean? It's not going to be immediate. Maybe you just need to be around it for long enough for it to see that you're not going to try and kill it. Then you can be near it when you're passing it food. It comes over to you a little bit. You can go over to it and it doesn't run away very far away, right? Like, it might move, but it's not running away. And then eventually, when you're in the hot phase, it's now more like, hey, here's some food, eat off my hand, let me touch you, come along with me. And that's kind of a continuum, right? But you can understand the progression. And then it's like, let's come with me. And then there's still some uncertainty because, and we consider that in business to be buyer's remorse, right? Somebody says yes, and then they get anxious because there's a gap between having said, okay, I understand the principle, but then is this going to actually turn into something that I want? And because I don't know, I can't foresee how it's going to go. And so immediately the brain gets anxious and we do one of the three things, right? We fight and we argue and say, this is crap, I want to get out of it. Or we run away, or we freeze and do nothing and go, oh, I'm not going to participate, right? So the continuum is to draw them down to that point where you're leading them forward. And then your content's purpose, some of that content in the warm and the hot phase, but also kind of post-purchase, or once they become a client, content's purpose is to, how do I give value, which is my second point, where the person can easily transition from where they are to where they want to be, or at least from having that interaction and saying, come with me, puppy dog, get in my van, I'm not going to kill you, I promise. Because even though they can know it's going to be okay, the brain and body wants to survive, and surviving means to do nothing or to avoid change, right? So our content's purpose is to facilitate them taking those jumps so they don't feel like jumps, they just feel like tiny stepping stones. The second layer to this is, once you've got a purpose and you go, I know what I'm trying to do, you have to think from a value perspective. If you're making content and it takes you 30 seconds and you haven't thought about it, or there isn't this just inherent knowingness of value behind what you're doing, don't do it. Because it's just going to get in the way of a person making a decision with you. If you're putting anything out and you're not super confident that somebody's going to get value from it, your ideal client specifically is going to get value from it, then it's really just in the way. Because if you do that too much, you have this giant like cloud of crap that people have to carve their way through just to figure out what's actually good or not. Which is why I'm always trying to focus on how do I produce content that matters. And then when I have content that matters, I create breadcrumbs of that content. So you notice that I do a live training or I'll do a podcast. Specifically for us, the live trainings are just in this group because the group is the value unit. Okay, you opt in for the group and then you get all this free value. I have a podcast which is kind of like cold to warm people, and then warm to hot is the group, right? So in that I have a podcast, I have a book, etc. That content is designed with a purpose, and there's immense amounts of value in it. That's my pillar piece of content. And then my team just cut it up into small video clips, small quotes, small memes, etc. And that becomes the breadcrumb content. The breadcrumbs lead back to the primary piece of content or lead towards taking a deeper action. So you notice that the caption of my posts is always like, check out my podcast. So one little kind of tactical thing in terms of content is always think of in terms of what does my ideal client want? Not what do I want to give them or what I think that they need or think that they want, but what do they actually want? Because I heard this another analogy from a mentor of mine, and they talked about, it's this story, and I'll paraphrase it, but basically, as a treatment for a sick dog, you had to give it garlic. Now, if you could try and give the dog garlic, it's not going to eat it, right? And if any of you have pets and try to give your dogs pills or whatever, they don't eat them. So how you do it is the dog still needs the garlic or the pill, right? That's the meat. That's the thing they need, right? So in terms of your practice, like there is something that they need, but then there's something that they want. You wrap what they need in what they want, and you serve them what they want. When they bite into it, they can't help but get what they need. In terms of your content, it's exactly the same thing. Headlines, opening sentences, structure, everything needs to be designed towards what they want that's going to excite them, not the stuff they need to hear. Don't talk about drinking more water. No one cares. And every man and his dog has done that video and that post before, so you doing it is not helping because it's not an independent thought, right? How to do stretches for your neck. If you YouTube neck stretches or Google neck stretches, there's going to be millions and millions of pieces of content around it. If I want to stretch my neck, I don't need you to give me a video on how to do it. I can probably just find a video. So instead, give something that's purposeful and valuable that shares your emotional insight. In terms of your content, there needs to be things that hook people in. Like, how many of you see those posts on social media? It's like, for example, you might see them on a website. It might be like, this one crazy thing that middle-aged people living in whatever your city is did to cure diabetes. Now, it's crap, but you see it and you just kind of want to click on it. Notice the ones that you want to click on, that you know you shouldn't, that you know are crap, but your brain, like you might not click on them, you might be stronger than I am, but you're looking at it and your brain says something like, I want to click on that. And then you tell yourself consciously, no, that's crap, this is not good, I don't want to click on it, right? And they're designed to get you to click. Now, if I made an article and it said the 27 things that you have to do to fix your back pain because your back pain is not what you think it is, and your doctor's probably not telling you the whole truth, but I'm going to tell you pretty much most of the truth based on my opinion. Like, no one's going to want to click on that because it's long and stupid. Whereas if it was like the one thing that you didn't know about back pain that could be killing you, okay, which one do you want to click on? Now you might say, no, I want to click on the other one because, I'm all about research, and it was a bad example, but I'm all about research, and I don't click on that clickbait stuff. The actual fact is, the math doesn't lie. People click on the latter, and they do that because it piques curiosity. And the whole point of your headlines, your captions, the opening sentences of anything that you do is to grab attention. Your ads, your content, your memes you create, your videos, the first 7 seconds is to capture their attention. The next, anywhere from 10 seconds to 30 seconds to, small paragraph, is designed to pique their interest. The purpose of piquing their interest is to get them to read more. The purpose of catching their attention is to get it to read in the first place. Okay, so capture their attention, then generate interest. Once you've generated interest in the thing, then you have to build desire. Desire is what's going to take that person from doing nothing to beginning to move. And if you've understood your purpose with the content in the first place, is it for cold, warm, or hot people, or serving existing clients, or what's the purpose behind it? You can build desire to get them to take the actions to get the results that you know are possible based on your purpose. Okay? And then the fourth thing is action. Once you've built desire, the person wants the thing, or wants to fulfill the action. The action of what you're wanting them to do, right? The purpose behind the content. Action is the small part of the video or the script you've written or whatever that gets them to actually take the action. Okay. Now this stands for AIDA, AIDA. Okay. Attention, interest, desire, action. I want you guys to write that down. A stands for attention. I stands for interest. D stands for desire. A stands for action. AIDA. And that's literally the structure. So if you were to look at, like, you're writing a blog post, for example, or a long form ad, maybe you're telling a story in an ad, trying to get people to click to your, watch your webinar or whatever. Opening sentence and the headline and the image, those are all the attention grabbing features of it. Okay. How do you get them to pay attention? How do you get them to see it and go, what's that? The clickbait, right? What's something that's going to get them from stopping and scrolling through pictures of people's lunch and dinner and cat videos and what their family and friends are up to look at your thing and pay attention to it? Once you've got their attention, you've got a short window to generate interest. Because how many of you have scrolled past, you saw something, you went, oh, that's interesting, and you looked at it, it caught your attention, then you read the first paragraph and you went, oh, that's crap, and you moved on. Or you watched the first 3 seconds of the video and you went, oh, that's crap, and you moved on. Exactly the same issue that we talked about at the start, right? So you've got to grab their attention. Then you have to pique their interest. Interest is like, let's say we are helping people with back pain, okay, chronic back pain. Grabbing their attention might be been struggling with back pain for longer than 5 years and can't find a solution. Somebody who has back pain is going to scroll through that. Their brain is conditioned for seeing this stuff, right? Because they've been told it so many times, or they've been thinking about it so much, their brain's just looking for it. It's like if you've ever bought a new t-shirt or a new car and then suddenly you see it everywhere. The car was already there, but you're now seeing it because you've got subconscious priming to notice it, right? If I said to you, don't think about an elephant, your brain's going to picture an elephant. If I keep saying elephant, elephant, elephant and clicking my thumb, I don't know if you can hear that, eventually I can click my thumb and you will think of an elephant because of, what's it called, classical conditioning, I think it is, if I remember my psychology class right. So in terms of what they're going to see, if you know your ideal client well, you know the language that you need to speak to them, you understand their pains and their desires, your attention-grabbing headline or your opening sentence will hook them in because you know what they're looking for, right? So when they see it, they go, oh, that's me. Immediately, like they don't think, oh, that's me. Their brain says, that's me. Because we all know that, 10% of it, what we do is conscious and we're thinking about it. 90% of it is subconscious or unconscious or whatever. Don't quote me on that. So our brain just kind of like scrolling through the news feed, we see the thing, our brain sees, it hears elephant and it goes, oh, what's that? When we're trying to generate their interest, we're going to be talking about, I might jump into a story and say, look, I know what you're thinking. This is just another person trying to sell me something about back pain. But this is a little bit different because I actually struggled with back pain for 15 years and every doctor told me that there was nothing wrong with me, but I knew something was not right. And people go, oh, that's interesting. What's this about? And then you transition towards desire. Now I'm paraphrasing and you go in a bit more detail, but the point of that is to, like I said, to get attention, to hook them into interest and then go into desire. So desire is more like, I'd done the x-rays, I'd done this, I'd done that, and I knew that there was something wrong, but nothing showed it. None of the standard medical tests showed it, and they all told me that I was crazy, and you use trigger words to the things that feel pain for them, right? They hate being called crazy, that, I'm telling you I've got pain, but there's nothing wrong, and I know there's something wrong, but the x-rays don't show it, the MRI doesn't show it or whatever. Now, my doctor told me that I'm just going to have to take drugs for the rest of my life, and I knew that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually solve it. And then I came across this article that I was reading online, and it talked about A, B, and C, starting to really pique interest, moving into desire. I found out about the nervous system. I'm being arbitrary. Found out about the nervous system and how the brain and body can become oversensitive to pain signals. And they talked about this thing called central sensitization. And I realized I had this aha moment that, yeah, my body has learned pain. This makes so much sense to me. And then you break into a little bit more of a story, and then you start to transition to action, right? So you're transitioning them from being aware of you to interested in what you're talking about to understanding the concept and saying, yeah, that makes sense to me. Oh my gosh, that's what I've got. And then you're pivoting into action, which is, so what I've gone and done is I've created 10 appointments next week where I'm going to go through a $55 assessment or a free assessment, or watch this webinar video, watch my training, or join my group, or whatever your call to action is, to find out the secret method that you learned about, right? And then you get them to click and opt in for the thing. Like whatever you create, you should have purpose behind it. And you should be having a structure to it. And there needs to be inherent value, obviously. And you get the value by knowing your marketplace. You know where they are, you know where they want to be, and you know how to facilitate them getting there. Okay, your content is to facilitate them. Your offers are to facilitate them. Your treatment services are to facilitate them, right? But it starts with knowing where they are, knowing where they want to be, and knowing where they are in that decision-making process so that you can facilitate them correctly because your content is purposefully created. The next thing I want you to think about is, how am I going to create the most amount of value that just seems insane for the person to not take me up on it? And how am I going to do it with emotion and value and story? You have to include stories in what you do. You have to include emotion in what you do. If you're not including stories are how information's been shared for hundreds of thousands of years. There has to be storytelling. Emotion has to be involved because emotion is what gets us hooked in. It can't be logic. If it was logic, it's the same thing like I said before about content, right? If it was just content that people needed, we'd all be billionaires with abs. If it was just logic and information, we'd all be billionaires with abs. It's not. It's context. It's storytelling. It's emotion. That's what gets people hooked in. A good ad, a good piece of content should get someone engaged to want to read the entire thing. And they should feel emotion in their own lives about it. And they should feel emotion about taking action. They should be wanting to. Like for those of you who are thinking about working with me, there should be this anxious energy of like, I kind of want to do it. Like it seems good. Is it too good to be true? Like, is this real? All of those things should be going on because that should have been created because it should feel, working with me should just feel right if you've watched enough of my content, okay? And it should feel uncomfortable at the same time because you're not used to making decisions like that because it feels too emotional. That's a testament to the fact that I know what you need and I can speak to it. And it's like that because I know that all of us are horrible decision makers. We are not entrepreneurs. We are not business people. We are technicians. We are doctors and health professionals and technicians who are good at what we do, but we're not very good at business and marketing and strategy and that kind of thing, generally speaking. And some of us are. I don't want to put all of us in the same bucket, but most of us are not. And so when we're feeling that feeling, it's because we're used to making this long, drawn-out, pointless thought process of analyzing all the data and making the best decision. In reality, nothing good typically ever comes from making a long-winded decision because we usually miss the mark. Emotional decisions that we can justify with logic when the thing is actually good and we can see how it's going to be good, that's what typically gets us what we want. When you thought about, should I kiss this person who's now your spouse or whatever, you didn't think, I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to look at it for 6 months and weigh up the pros and cons and figure out it's going to be a good idea. You probably just jumped into it and you felt a bit anxious, but you knew it was the right thing and you could justify it to yourself, but it was an emotional decision. Buying your services, becoming a client is an emotional decision. If you can wrap storytelling up into it, it hooks the person in to the purpose that you'd set for the content and drives them through it. Now, obviously, this can be done in a bad way to get you to buy stuff that you shouldn't, right? So we're all going to use this for good, not evil. But if done right, it fulfills the purpose of everything that we're about in healthcare. And this is my belief. It might not be yours, but I think it will once you hear me through. Our whole purpose in healthcare is to get people to do the things that they need to experience the benefits that they would if they did it, but are not experiencing because they're not doing them. Like if you sell weight loss, if you sell fitness, if you sell health, right? All of us essentially sell health or some kind of improvement of health. They typically need us because they're not doing what they need to do, don't know how to do it, or know but haven't done it. So our entire job is to facilitate them flipping doing the thing to get the results. My job is with my client in my practice is to get them to keep doing the thing that they need to do. If I've told them, hey, I need to see you, 12 times to fix your chronic pain, every visit is just, how do I get them to flip and come back so they can have the 12 sessions that I know will get them the result? Because every client is constantly trying to jump ship because they don't want to pay money or whatever. So my purpose is not just the healthcare. My purpose is getting them to come back. And you can have an average practitioner who is really good at getting clients to come back, and they'll get better results than an amazing practitioner who sucks at getting clients to come back or sucks at getting clients to follow through with recommendations. Skill is one thing. Getting clients to comply is a whole different story. And so your content, your marketing, everything that you're doing, because marketing and content, they're kind of the same thing, right? Your content is your marketing. It should be there designed to move people further forward to working with you. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And if they're a client reading your content, it should be moving them further to complying with what you've told them to do so they can get a better result. Ultimately, it's about moving people forward. Because if we can't get people to say yes, then we can't help them. So when you think about your content, think, is it creating that feeling in my clients? Is it creating that feeling in my prospective clients? Okay, so we've talked about purpose and value, and we've talked about the AIDA principle, which is AIDA. Okay, this is the structure for creating your content. And if done right, you build massive amounts of authority and you generate clients with ease, which is the ham that I put at the start of my post, which hooked you into coming in today. Okay, so the third thing that I want to jump into today is tactics. Okay, what are some things that you can do right now to go and drive clients into your practice? Some simple frameworks that you can go and apply.